I gave you 3 choices for your eyeball drawing. You only have to pick one. I chose to do this one. You can decide to place a crosshair on your box if you would like to. I'm just going to kind of free draw it. Actually think of this box that I drew for it as one quadrant to work with, so I'm paying attention to where everything falls in place. You can use tracers if you can find anything around the house to start with the iris and the pupil. I just went ahead and kind of placed it until I was happy with the roundness of both of the shapes. So the next thing you will try to do is place in your eyelid, the upper lid and the lower lid. This is going to kind of cut into your iris, the colored part of your eye. Unless the person is scared or surprised, you're not going to see a lot of the white portion of the eye. So keep that in mind. Pay attention to how much is actually showing. Pay attention to the length of it, the way they curve, things like that when you place it in. So if you've noticed, I've left a little bit of white right below the iris because that space is kind of open, but I've really cut into the top part of my iris there. So I get that placed in. I'm placing in that little tear duct that's there on the corner. And then you can go ahead and erase the top of the iris that you no longer need, because your eyelid is actually going to conceal that portion. So that tear duct that you placed in, you also need to place in the water line that you see here. That's where your eyelashes are going to be drawn. Your eyelashes need to actually be placed on top of this. It has to grow from this area. And I'll kind of pull it up so you can see it close, what that's supposed to look like, the tear duct and the water line together. One other thing that's important to have is the reflective area that's up against your pupil. You need to have some type of reflective light so your eyeball looks a little bit more lifelike. So I am right now going to go ahead and color in my pupil, the dark part of my eye right there, making sure that I leave that reflective light alone. So that part needs to stay nice and white. So placing in the folds of your upper eyelid, pay attention to how close it is to your iris and pupil area. So I've noticed that it gets a little bit wider towards the left side, so you need to make sure you mimic that as well. And then I'm going to see if I can try and get this lower lid fold in. Right now we're going to just place it in as an outline. Later we'll take care of these areas with actual value and shading so it doesn't look like a outline around your eyeball. I'm going to go ahead and place in the eyebrow. Make sure you pay attention to the distance, the length of it. So notice I used my pencil to kind of figure out how far away it starts and stops above the eyeball. I'm also using the box as a quadrant again to kind of see how high up it goes. So I noticed the top of my eyebrow. The top of my eyebrow almost touches the top of the box. So I made sure I kind of use that to guide me. The corner of it that kind of thins out to the right touches the right side of the box. So I made sure I mimicked that, and I did the same thing for the front. It's a little bit thicker towards the front, so you need to make sure that you actually show that the shape of that eyebrow is going from a thick section to a thinner, tapered off area. I'm going to now address all the outlines that I've got and place some shadow and values around it as I see it in the actual photo. So this portion is actually going to look more like a deep fold, so that's going to be darkest, and as I come out from that fold, it kind of gets a little bit lighter and kind of disperses out that value a bit. As it gets to the left side, I'm focused on that little corner you see there, making sure that it kind of widens and touches the top or the lower part of my eyebrow area. I'm just following the shape that I see on the actual drawing itself. So the picture has a lot of texture lines like hatching and things like that. I'm not going to do it in this piece. I'm trying to keep it nice and smooth. So I'm using that circular motion that we learned. I'm also going to be using my fingers a lot to kind of soften it up a little bit more. You can use tissue or Q-tips if you've got them. If anything looks dramatic in value, go ahead and place it. It seems odd that I am shading the eyeball a bit, but your eyelid's kind of hanging over. So you're going to have some type of cast shadow happening with your eyelid and the folds and everything that's up above. So you need to make sure that you're showing that. You also need to consider softening that though, so it's not just one hot, solid black mark inside of your eyeball, so just be careful with it. I'm spreading out my graphite to kind of tone down the white of the eye because it's not going to be a bright, vivid white. It's going to kind of be toned down. But then once you do that, you need to go back in to any spots that were meant to stay as highlights and make them pull back out. So the waterline and any highlights that you see on the upper and lower eyelid, you need to place that back in case you lose it. My shading isn't as dramatic just yet. Notice that I'm going back and forth and I'm building up layers as I go because it's a lot easier to add than it is to take away and try to erase all of your detail and values and things like that out. So I'm just kind of taking my time and placing in details as I go and compare it side by side to see what else I can push with it. So I am going to go ahead and place the color in, so to speak, the shading in for my iris, doing a nice smooth look to it. Maybe you would like to intentionally leave some highlights in there. You can always place it in later with your eraser, but I'm just going to go in and darken around the iris like I see it, and then kind of put in a slightly lighter value in the center. I'm purposely leaving in a little bit of white in there. Placing in a little bit of texture by putting in some line work on top of the values I already placed in. Remember I said that there's cast shadows inside of the eye, so it's really heavy underneath the top eyelid area, so I'm making sure I place that in. Looks like she has some eyeliner on, so I'm kind of darkening around the eye just a little bit. And I'm just going to keep pushing my values until I'm happy with it. Okay, eyelashes. Make sure that you show them curving outward. The eyelashes on the right side here are going to curve towards the right. As you get more towards the center, they're going to start pulling upwards in an upwards direction. And as you get further along to the left side, you need to make sure you turn it and kind of curve it out to the left instead. So these need to have directional growth. It can't just be all straight up. Make sure you kind of overlap and crisscross them so they look bunched together. Okay, so my outline for my eyebrow was just a guide, so you need to lightly erase that out so you don't see the outline around the hair that you're going to place in, and pay attention to the length of the eyebrow hairs, the direction that they move, how they overlap. Hers is a little odd. She's got thicker eyebrows over to the left side, kind of bunched and full and dark, and it kind of thins out and disperses, kind of looks like a little bit more straggle kind of in the center and off to the right side as it gets thinner. So I'm trying to kind of copy that as much as I can. So I'm going to keep pushing. I could absolutely go darker than this, but I'm going to keep pushing till I'm happy with it. I don't think I'll go as dark as the photo, and that's okay. I'm just trying to see if I can get it as close as possible. So I'm just working my way around and checking things to see what I can push without it looking too forced or too odd looking.